वैष्णवांश्च रूपं साग्रजातं सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदान्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामने गौरत्पिषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे सर्वशास्त्राब्धिपीयूष सर्ववेदैकसत्वर सर्वसिद्धान्तरत्नाढ्य सर्वलोकैकदृक्प्रद सर्वभागवत प्राण श्रीमद्भागवत प्रभो कलिध्वान्तोदितादित्य श्रीकृष्ण परिवर्तित परमानन्दपाठाय प्रेमवर्ष्यक्षराय ते सर्वदा सर्वसेव्याय श्रीकृष्णाय नमोऽस्तु मे मदेकबन्धो मत्सङ्गिन् मद्गुरो मन्महाधन मन्निस्तारक मद्भाग्य मदानंद नमोस्तुते असाधु साधुता दायीन अतिनीचोच्चतारक हानमुंच कदाचिन्मां प्रेमणारथ कंठयो स्फुर श्रीमद्भागवत महापुराणम की जय हरे कृष्ण so welcome all of you in today's session third session in this bhakti vaibhav unit so today we'll be able to we will be planning to complete most of the chapter, if not all, almost till description of universal form begins, which is then just a quick thing. After that, just 10-15 minutes it will take to complete. So, fine. So, yesterday we discussed some further verses. We have discussed till verse 11. So, would just begin with some points from yesterday's class, which any of you would like to share. Some online students also, and some from on-site. Yes, Prabhu. Mike, please give mic. There.
In the verse number 11, you were mentioning that how Kirtanam is like most potent form of devotional service to deliver any person. So various reasons you were mentioning. So after a long time of Shravanam and Kirtan, then only one gets the adhikar to do Smaranam of the Lord, because only after sufficient purification of the mind, then proper Smaranam is possible. And you're mentioning Smaranam will benefit only himself, but then Kirtanam will benefit even others also. And even in the liberated sages life, if we see devotee life, so we see in their life also Kirtanam was more prominent. They would always glorify the Lord.
Okay, good. Yes. So those were some points from Bhakti Sandar on how Kirtan is the highest limb amidst all the processes of, especially 9 limbs of devotional service. Okay. Shadbhuj Gaurang Prabhu. Yes, Shadbhuj Gaurang Prabhu, you can speak. I think you have to unmute yourself. Not able to, he's not able to unmute himself. Okay, someone from here till that time. Yes, Prabhu.
Hare
Yes,
Krishna.
Shadbhuj Gaurang Prabhu, you can speak now.
Prabhu, you are mentioning in shloka number 6 about Ante Narayana Smriti. Ante's two meanings. One is at the time of death, whatever we do, it should ultimately culminate in remembrance of the Lord at the time of death, or all the practices should ultimately lead to remembrance of the Lord even during the life. That is ultimate prayojan of all the processes, Sankhya, Yoga, Swadharma, Parinishta, those things.
Yes, correct. Two meanings by Sridhar Swami and also by Vishwanath Chakravarti, two different meanings. Ante meaning at the end of Janmanaha Ante, or Ante can also mean Sankhya Yoga Abhyam Swadharma Parinishtaya Ante, like that. At the end of all these processes, as the conclusion of all these processes, they should lead to bhakti. So, and then uh, once that happens, then there will be ant of those respective processes. They will be finished. They will be over. Meaning only pure devotional service aspect will remain. Especially in terms of sadhya. There can be yoga mishra bhakti, jnana mishra bhakti, but sadhya will not be of yoga or jnana. That is ante. That is also the indication in ante. Other processes will be ended. Samapt ho jayegi. That way. Okay. Yes. Here, bro, you had some.
We were reading in the eighth purpose that Prabhupada is giving an analogy that medical books are available in the market, but one cannot study them and become a doctor. So same way Srimad Bhagavatam is the postgraduate study of Godhead. So it has to be studied at the feet of person Bhagavat. Then
Correct.
only you are giving one more analogy that it is like the sweetest fruit on the
Tallest
topmost
branch.
tallest branch of the tree.
Correct.
So we cannot understand and take in the realizations of Srimad Bhagavatam.
Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Uchatam Shakhayaha Madhuratamam Phalam. सबसे बड़ी ऊंची शाखा का सबसे मधुरतम फल. That is what we are aspiring for. Like that. Otherwise, Vedas has some other fruits also, but this is the sweetest fruit. It has dharma, artha, kama, moksha, those fruits also, like that. But this one is the sweetest. Galitam phalam. That is the point. Yes, Prabhu. Okay. Any one more devotee from online students, online devotees would like to share something from yesterday's discussion? Okay, fine. Anyone from here? I want at least 4 devotees to speak. So, any other discussion, any other points that we touched? Keshav Nimai Prabhu. Yes, Keshav Nimai Prabhu. Okay, chat box. Thing is there. Take. Okay, I think something. His hand is raised. Okay, Prabhu, you can speak. Sorry, Keshav Nimai Prabhu, there seems to be some issue. We can't hear you, so find some other devotee.
Prabhuji, you also discussed that only reasoning and argument will not help us to realize or it will not help to bring the transformation. That the transcendental process has also to be followed. Both should go simultaneously.
Yeah, very nice. Yes, only reason and argument will not help, but also there has to be positive process like that of connecting to the Supreme Lord. So then it will help. Yes, fine. So in this way, we have seen till verse 11. Shukdev Goswami congratulated question of Parikshit. Then 3 verses he spoke Viparyaya. Then in the verse 5th he spoke what is to be done. Anvaya, he spoke the positive aspect. And then he substantiated that is how, that is the behavior of even the muktas. And who's the example? He himself is the example, because he is the one who was mukta Atmaram right from his being in mother's womb, but still he studied also this great Quran from his father, because he was so much attracted. Parinishthitopi nairgunne uttama shloka leelaya grihita cheta rajarshe akyanam yad adhitavan. And that same Akhyan I will also teach you. Tadham te abhidhasyami mahapaurushiko bhavan. Yasya shraddhadata mashu syan mukunde mati sati. And then he concluded, especially this particular aspect, that how amidst this, in this process of bhakti, amongst all the limbs, Hari is to be Shrotavya, Kirtitavya, Smartavya, Kartavya, Bhajaniya, whatever, in that, but the greatest means is the Harer Namanu Kirtanam. Kirtanam is constant chanting in the following of the authorities is the greatest limb of devotional service. So he glorified that particular aspect. So now in 3 verses, he will reassure Parikshit that he doesn't have to lose hope. Srila Sridhar Swami says in these 3 verses, Shukdev Goswami is saying Ma Shuchaha. Krishna, just as he says Ma Shuchaha, similarly Shukdev Goswami also is saying Ma Shuchaha. To whom? Parikshit. What is Ma Shuchaha? What does it mean? Do not fear. Like that. Fear in the sense, it's not that Parikshit is fearing for his life, but Parikshit just feels that, oh, actually this beautiful process of Shravanam, Kirtanam, and I am just having 7 days left, what can I accomplish like that? So in answer to that, in a very reassuring tone, Srila Shukdev Goswami is speaking this next 3 verses. So we will see this. Kim pramatasya bahubhir parokshayarhayanayriha varam muhurtam viditam ghatate shreyase yataha. Translation.
What is the value of a prolonged life, which is wasted, inexperienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after his supreme interest.
Yes. So hearing this glorification of bhakti, Sridhar Swami says that Parikshit felt here, I am here. Alpameva ayuhu avashishtam kim aham sadhayeyam. Actually, oh, this process is so wonderful, but alpameva ayu avashishtam. My life is so, it's remaining, very little life is remaining. Kim aham sadhayeyam. What will I be able to accomplish? I am getting to know about these wonderful truths from Shukdev Goswami, but my life is so short. Now only 7 days. What will I be able to accomplish? Iti, he was thinking like that. So Ma Shuchaha Itya. So then Shukdev Goswami said, Ma Shuchaha, do not fear. With this, Kim Iti Tribhi. He spoke this in verses beginning with Kim. In how many verses? 3 verses, 12, 13, 14, like that. So that is the thing. Kim pramattasya bahubhi paroksher hayaner iha. Actually, what is the use? Pramattasya bahubhir paroksher hayane kim. What is the use of living a very long life, having many, many years, but which are paroksha years? Hayana here, hayanam means years, lifespan. But paroksha, it is inexperienced, it is alakshit, alakshitaihi, unconscious. What is the use of many, many years of unconscious living? He is saying. What is the use of many years of unconscious living? Alakshitaihi. So there is no use. Better than that is, he says, varam muhurtam viditam. You better have only one muhurta life, but that is viditam. It is a conscious life. 2 words are being contrasted. What are they? Parokshai and viditam. Paroksher hayane, kya fayda uska? Usse acha to, muhurtam viditam, like that. So one moment of consciousness, one moment of knowledge is better. Muhurtam literally means 48 minutes, 2 ghatikas. 1 ghatika is 24 minutes. Muhurta would be 2 ghatikas, 48 minutes. But here in the verse, it need not carry that strict sense of muhurta meaning 48 minutes, like that. So that's why Prabhupada also translates as better to live, better one moment of consciousness, one moment of conscious thought, like that. That is better. Varam, it is superior. Why? Ghatet shreyase yataha. Because if he has even one moment of full consciousness, then he will ghatet, he will put efforts for shreyas, like that. He will put the effort for the ultimate benediction of life. He also says that viditam means vratha yati iti jnatam. Viditam meaning he is conscious that, oh, my life is getting wasted in useless pursuit of sense gratification. So as soon as he becomes conscious of that, he will put some efforts to understand the goal of life and to achieve it. So that is ghatet, yatnyam kuryat. He will put those efforts. So this is his point. So that is why, what is the use of a prolonged life, Prabhupada is saying, which is wasted, inexperienced by years, parokshaihi, like that. Better a moment of full consciousness, viditam muhurtam, because thereby one will start putting efforts in his supreme interest. So he's telling him that, so you don't worry, don't feel that you have only 7 days, so what can be accomplished? 7 days of full consciousness, they are much, much better than many, many years of inexperienced living, like that, isn't it? Even Bhagavatam, it says also, Kim ataravah kim na jivanti, bhastra kim na shvasantyut, na khadanti na mehanti, kim grame pashavo pare, right? Do the trees not live, and do the bellows of blacksmith not breathe? And similarly, all these animals, do they not eat and also enjoy sense gratification? What is the use of that? Better, even though somebody has a short life, but that life is led with quality, with consciousness, with understanding of the spiritual goal. That is the great thing. Srila Jiva Goswami said Shreyase here means basically Nama Kirtanadi Rupaya. Here he says that it means what Shreyas he has spoken already. Harer Namanu Kirtanam. So Srila Parikshit, Srila Shukdev Goswami is saying that better to live for one moment with full consciousness. Thereby you will try for Shreyas. And what is Shreyas for you? The Shreyas is, this Kirtanam, Shravanam Kirtanam of the Supreme Lord. This is Shreyas for you, like that. Shreyase, meaning for chanting of the holy names and like that. Jiva Goswami says that Nam Kirtanadi Rupaya. Okay, so Prabhupada also says this idea very clearly. In order to encourage the king who had only 7 remaining days of the life, Srila Shukdev Goswami asserted that there is no use in living hundreds of years without any knowledge of the problems of life. Better to live for a moment with full consciousness of the supreme interest to be fulfilled. So Prabhupada also would speak about this, and then he would quote some examples for this. Those great personalities who didn't have much long life, but they are considered very great personalities. Who are they? Some example. Prabhupada would quote whom? Yes. Yeah, Prabhupada would quote Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He lived only 48 years. And Adi Shankaracharya, who lived only 32 years. But then what an impact they made. Of course, there are Vaishnavas who lived also very long life. Ramanujacharya lived for 120 years. Similarly, Vedanta Deshikan also lived for a very long time. Madhvacharya lived for 77 years. Goswamis also lived for long years, durations. So, yes, point is the life of quality. Whether one has a short life or long life, the point is of the quality of the life. Muhurtam viditam. Or if one has a long life, fine, that is also. Point is viditam. It should be the life of full consciousness, understanding of the spiritual life and putting efforts into that, like that. So that is the point. One should not waste his life in eat, drink, be merry. Prabhupada says that will be a simple wastage of life. Prabhupada continues from the prior verse further about the offenses at the feet of the holy name. That topic is not yet over because it is still coming from And this verse doesn't have any connection to it. It is coming from the prior. Again, it is from Bhakti Sandarbh's commentary that Prabhupada is speaking. So especially here he speaks about the offense, that particular aspect. How offending a devotee is very, very dangerous, and one should be staying away from, meaning one should avoid it by all means. So please read this, just this much,
Quoting from the Markandeya Puran, Sri Goswamiji says
who
that
is Sri Goswamiji?
Jiva Goswami.
Jiva Goswami. He's writing as Goswamiji. Like in Vrindavan, they say Goswamiji. Yeah.
That one should never blaspheme the devotee of the Lord, nor indulge in hearing others who are engaged in belittling a devotee of the Lord. A devotee should try to restrict the vilifier by cutting out his tongue. And if one is unable to do so, one should commit suicide rather than hear the blaspheming of the devotee of the Lord. The conclusion is that one should neither hear nor allow vilification of a devotee of the Lord.
So Sri Jiva Goswami gives there, he speaks about the offenses, and then he gives that, he finally says that, so what if one hears blasphemy of a devotee, especially of a very great devotee, Mahat? So then he says one should defeat that person by argument, cut down his arguments to pieces, like that. If he can't do that, then he says he should, cut down his tongue. You could not break him by arguments, so you pull off his tongue, like that. Then if you can't do that, then you should commit suicide. And then if you can't do that also, then you should leave the place, that way, finally. So Prabhupada, at one place, he says that, so we don't want so much violence, in the society of devotees, right? So all these options like cutting down the tongue and all, it is more from the angle of gravity of the matter, like that. We are not encouraged to do it. We should not do such a thing, like that. Sometimes they are connected also to the varna. If somebody is a Brahmana, he should, defeat him by argument. Kshatriya won't be able to defeat, so he should cut down the tongue. And somebody who is a Vaishya or Shudra, they won't be able to do either of these things. So that's why they should commit suicide, like that. But point is, yes, we should just leave the place that's the best option. If we can quiet that person by defeating what ideology, what criticism he is making, we should do that. And if we can't do that because of a number of reasons, whatever, if he's a very senior person or like that, we should just leave the place. We should not hear that. So that is the most recommended thing. So Mahaprabhu also showed in his life how he would not hear any criticism. Just he would say Vishnu, Vishnu, and go away from the place, like that. Fine. So further also Prabhupada speaks about a holy name and its effects, especially in terms of, again, thus 10 Namapradas, he is speaking in that context. So we'll proceed. Text 13. Khatvango nama rajarshir jnatve yatta mihayushah muhurtat sarvam utsrijya gatavan abhayam harim.
The saintly king Khatwang, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of Godhead.
So then, is there an example like that? Varam muhurtam viditam, you are saying that better, even one moment of full consciousness is superior to many, many years of inexperienced, alakshit, unconscious, ignorant life. So then immediately he is telling about one king, Khatwang. So Khatwang is a very popular king. He came in the Ikshvaku Kula. He comes in Lord Ramachandra's dynasty, before Ramachandra, of course. And he is also described in which canto? In Bhagavatam? 9th canto he is described. Yes, 9th canto, 9th chapter, where the Suryavamshi kings are described. There is also, he is described in little bit more detail. So this is what he is referring to, that Khatwang. His story is in greater details in Mahabharata and even greater details in Vayu Puran, Khatwanga. Okay. So Vayu Puran and all places talk about his other aspects of his life also. So this was a Rajarshi, Khatwango Nama Rajarshi. Jnatva iyattam ihayushaha. When he understood the iyatta of his life in this world, ihayushaha. In this world, he understood how much duration he has got. What was that? That was muhurta, just one muhurta. He had got 48 minutes like that. Prabhupada translates it as moment. That's it. You know, he's making a translation, giving more urgency. Typically, actually, it would mean 48 minutes. And even in Puranas, it is explained, it was 48 minutes. Like that. He had a duration of 2 ghatikas because that's how he could take a plane called as Anaruddha Gati and came by Vayu Gati back to Ayodhya in his palace. You know, from heavens, he came back to Ayodhya. He is Ayodhya's king. So he came back and then he immediately had all the sages, Brahmana chant for do Shravanam Kirtanam, and he absorbed himself in that Shravanam Kirtanam. And then he left his body in that condition. But in anyhow, still 48 minutes is not like very huge time. So Prabhupada takes the spirit of it and he translates as one moment. That's it, Muhurta. Muhurtat sarvam utsrijya gatavan abhayam harim. In just one moment, he gave up everything, attachment for everything. He donated a major part of his treasury to all the Brahmanas. He arranged for all the further reins of his kingdom to be taken. And then he just absorbed himself in Shravanam Kirtana completely. So, Muhurtat Sarvam Utsrijya Gatavan Abhayam Harim. And then thereby he could achieve the abode of Lord, who is the only fearless shelter. Abhayam Harim. So, this was this great personality, Khatwang, who had only 48 minutes, who had only one muhurta to live. His sense is you have 7 days. So how much hopeful you can be. So don't worry about it like that. So that is his point. So this story is shared also by Sridhar Swami and others in commentary. This Prabhupada also, that's how he shares this story in the commentary in his own purport. So Prabhupada writes a very nice point about Khatwang Maharaj being responsible in true sense. So read that first, highlight it.
A fully responsible man should always be conscious of the prime duty of the present human form of life. The activities to meet the immediate necessities of material life are not everything. One should always be alert in his duty for attainment of the best situation in the next life. Human life is meant for preparing ourselves for that prime duty.
So that is the point. Although he was so much such a responsible king, he was a very great warrior, a very brave warrior, and that's how he was called to fight with demigods. Khatwang, you know the story. He was called to fight with the demigods, fight for demigods against the asuras. So then he fought a war for the demigods, and they won also. So after they won the war, the demigods were very happy with him and wanted to give him a benediction. So, but he was always very alert. He understood that he has left Bhuloka and he has come to, Swargaloka. So, in a Swargaloka, their 12 hours are our 6 months, and their 24 hours are our 1 year. So he understood, probably he might have fought for some days or whatever. So he understood that major span of his life must be over now. So he just asked demigods that I just want one benediction, that can you let me know what is the duration of life iha in Bhuloka that I have got? How much duration of life that is there? Iha iyattam, like that. So then demigods looked at, demigods can understand these things, right? They have the powers by which they can tell about the life, how much life is left. They said, oh, you have just got one more, like that. So immediately he took from Indra one very special plane and came with a speed of wind back to Ayodhya, and then arranged everything very quickly, and then had Shravanam and Kirtanam, and then completely absorbed himself. Even ninth canto speaks about his consciousness, his prayers also, that he spoke to himself. He remembered the Supreme Lord, and all his prayers are spoken there. Some 5-6 prayers like that. So his consciousness is spoken how it was that way. And then in full consciousness, remembering Supreme Lord, he went back to the spiritual world. So the point here is that how Maharaj Khatwang, although he was a great king, he was Chakravarti, a Samrat, but still he was prime conscious of his, he was very much conscious of his prime duty. When this whole war and everything has happened and there is a great victory, so time to celebrate, party or whatever, not like that. When he was asked, then he immediately remembered that, yes, my life may not be much now and I have to attain lotus feet of the Lord. So that was the first thing in his mind that struck him like that. So Prabhupada is saying one should be very alert in his duty for attainment of best situation. So fine, he did it as some service to Lord's Mishra Bhaktas, the demigod. That is okay. But he also understood the aspect that how much time is left, and he wants to completely absorb himself in remembrance of the Supreme Lord. So he left that place because Sridhar Swami says, because it is Bhoga Bhumi. There is a lot of rajas there. So that's why he left that and came to Karma Bhumi. Srila Jiva Goswami says he left that place because Vishay Bahulyat, there is so many sense objects there, Chitta Vikshep. So because of that, there is great agitation of the mind. So it is not a place to leave the body, isn't it? Like that. It's not an ideal place. So he that's why he came back to, and of course here it's not just a Prithvi, it is Ayodhya. It is the very special dham, Ayodhya. So that's why he quickly came back, and then that's how he prepared himself for the prime duty this way. So Prabhupada writes this entire story in his purport very nicely. Further, so Prabhupada says, Maharaj Parikshit was thus encouraged by the great Shukadev Goswami, even though he had only 7 days left in his life, to execute the prime duty of hearing the glories of the Lord in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. So he will be doing Harer Namanu Kirtanam, Shukadev Goswami, and Parikshit will be doing the Shravanam. Parikshit will be hearing completely. That will complete Yasya Shraddha Dhatam Ashu Syan Mukunde Mati Sati. That way. So that is the mood with which Shukdev Goswami spoke about the examples of the example of Khatwang Maharaj. Text 14. Tavapye tarhi kauravya saptaham jivitavadihi upakalpaya tat sarvam tavad yat samparayikam.
Maharaj Parikshit, now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life.
So that's why Tavapyetar hi Kauravya. See, in your case, Khatwang Maharaj had only Muhurtam, but in your case, you have Saptaham. You have 7 days, Jivitavadhi. You have 7 more days to live, isn't it? So 7 more days to live you have, and that's why, so you don't worry. You will get to hear this Bhagavat for the 7 days, and you can absorb, you can prepare your consciousness very well to go back home, back to Godhead. Upakalpaya tat sarvam tavad yat samparayikam. So samparayikam meaning parlaukik sadhanam, after, in order to achieve your destination post death, whatever is needed, that is known as samparayikam. So paralaukik sadhanam means by which one will be able to achieve the post-death destination, highest destination here. So you can do that. Upakalpaya tat sarvam. You can accomplish it very easily. What is to be done to achieve the goal of, achieving the lotus feet of Supreme Lord. Upakalpaya. Accomplish it. Don't worry, you have 7 days. So accomplish whatever is needed, that great absorption is needed to be able to achieve the lotus feet of the Lord. You can do it. That way he is speaking Parikshit in a very, very promising tone this way. Sometimes in some places, the explanation of Bhagavatam Saptaha is also done in this fashion. There is one Vamshidhar, commentator on Bhagavatam, who speaks that Parikshit, he speaks in a little bit detail based on other pramanas, where he says that Parikshit, when he was cursed, that was the noon time on that particular day. He left in the morning for the hunting, and around noon time was where he felt that great thirst, and that episode happened of going to Shamik Muni's ashram and not getting any water. So then that is when he put the dead snake. And then Parikshit, after that, he left and came back to his kingdom in the evening, he says. And when he came back in the evening to his kingdom, that is when he got to know from one Gaurmukh, one person called as Gaurmukh, who was sent by Shamik Rishi. As soon as Shamik Rishi understood that Shringi has cursed him, so he became extremely dejected, and he also wanted to inform now Parikshit that you have been cursed like that. So Gaurmukh was sent immediately to tell Parikshit that you have been cursed. So that Gaurmukh reached Parikshit in the evening. So Parikshit understood that he has been cursed like that. So after that, for Parikshit to be able to hand over the reins of his kingdom and settle everything and hand over all the things, responsibilities to the ministers. He's not some little bit manager. He is what? Chakravarti Samrat. He's Jambudvipa Adhipati. Parikshit's realm reign is over entire Jambudvip. That is Yudhishthir or Parikshit's reign. So in order to hand over that thing, Vamshidhar quotes that it took some days. So he says that Shukdev Goswami spoke the katha for 7 days. So if you would have been, you would be dead within 7 days. Like that he curses the Shringi, right? But based on other pramanas, he shows that actually that saptaha, which is there in the curse, that is interpreted as 12 days. He says it will not be 7 days, but it will be 12 days. And within those 4 or 5 days was he just settled everything. And then he came to here on the bank of Ganges, where Shukdev Goswami spoke. And further 7 days he spoke like that. So he says that, so that's how he was able to hand over everything and hear katha actually for 7 days like that. So that is, I just wanted to tell that because it is a popular idea in other sampradayas. So sometimes you may hear this also, because yes, Parikshit, to be able to, right from point of cursing, to be able to give up everything, settle everything, and then immediately Shukdev Goswami coming to speak to him for 7 days appears logically little difficult. So that is how he gives that alternative explanation also, that in some pramanas it is explained in this fashion also. Whatever, the point that I wanted to tell is 7 days Shukdev Goswami spoke to him a proper katha. Katha was spoken for 7 days. That is how here he is speaking. Shukdev is speaking that you have 7 more days to live. After their meeting and all, he's saying that you have 7 days to live. So that's why you can accomplish everything. Don't worry about it this way. So purport, just read purport. Someone.
Shukdev Goswami, after citing the example of Maharaj Khatwanga, who prepared himself for the next life within a very short time, encouraged Maharaj Parikshit by saying that since he still had 7 days at his disposal, he could easily take advantage of the time to prepare himself for the next life. Indirectly, the Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that he should take shelter of the sound representation of the Lord for the 7 days, still remaining in the duration of his life, and thus get himself liberated. In other words, everyone can best prepare himself for the next life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam as it was recited by Shukdev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. The rituals are not formal, but there are also some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out as instructed hereafter.
Yeah, so just as he is saying, Tavad yat samparayikam. So similarly, sometimes even if somebody is, wants to prepare for his death in the last part of his life, so Prabhupada is saying that one can simply prepare himself. Everyone can best prepare himself for the next life by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, as it was recited by Shukdev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. And of course, this is not some formal ritualistic thing, because Samparayikam Prabhupada has translated as rituals for the next life. So Prabhupada is saying that it is also not like a very ritualistic thing, but Shravanam Kirtanam of Bhagavatam, it is done with absorption, it is done with love and devotion. It is not just a formal thing that way. Okay, so now from here onwards, there is another topic that is beginning. So just before that, is there anything that you wish to ask on this? Just 2-3 verses only, but just in case if you want to ask anything.
True, like Khatwang Maharaj thing, Prabhupada himself is writing that he was always alert about the prime duty of life. So his life is viditam in that sense, not like Muhurta was viditam. So if someone is always conscious to be Krishna conscious, he's always cautious to not fall in Maya and want to be, then how can we say Muhurtam viditam?
Yeah, so that's what point is, that here Viditam Prabhupada translates as a life of full consciousness, like that. One may be aware of his life's goal, and one may be aware of the services that one has to render, like that. But especially Viditam, Prabhupada has translated that better a moment of full consciousness. So just as here, later, meaning the Khatwang Maharaj also, why he wanted to give up everything and completely absorb himself is to achieve that full consciousness in Lord's service, that way. So that is why, yes, he was a pious king and he was aware of devotional ideals before also. But if you see, when he understood that, yes, only this much is the time, so then what is that full consciousness when one absorbs himself completely? No other responsibilities, no other responsibilities in the sense of no other worldly duties. Like here also in this case, he understood, it is spoken also that he understood that demigods and their wars with demons, it is out of envy for each other and all that. So it is not exactly like a very great devotional service aspect or like that. Same was realization of Muchukunda also, right? That's why he asked such a benediction that don't, I want to sleep like that these demigods will never wake me up again. Because he was feeling that they will again wake him up. That was the reason. Jiva Goswami explains in his commentary. Why did he ask such a benediction to sleep? Because he was doubtful these fellows will again wake me up, in the sense again call me like that. But I don't want to do that. Better I sleep, and when I get up, the first person I see is Lord Krishna. So like that. That is why he asked for such a benediction. So here also, Viditam here is more in the sense of his complete absorption, in the process of bhakti, in that sense, like that. So that is what I understand. Okay. Yes. Thank you. Anyone else wants to ask anything on this? Anyone from online has anything to check on this? Otherwise we'll proceed. Okay. Yes. Thank you. We proceed now further. This is the last section in this chapter, and this is about 15 to all the way to end of the chapter. It is about Ashtanga Yoga. So why suddenly this topic of Ashtanga Yoga is coming? We'll see that. Text 15. Antakale tu Purusha agate gata sadvasah छिंदात असंग शस्त्रेण स्पृहाम देहे ये चतम.
At the last stage of one's life, one should be bold enough not to be afraid of death, but one must cut off all attachment to the material body and everything pertaining to it and all desires thereof.
Yes. So text 15 onwards, if you see, Srila Jiva Goswami says in his Vyakhya, in his Krama Sandarbha, so he has a comment where he says that what is this in between topic which is coming over here? So just will show you his original words. Atayeva antakale. See, antakale, this one. So antakale ityadi, the section beginning with antakale, madhyamam prakaranam, this is intermediate topic, madhyamam prakaranam, keshanchit annesham eva sadhanatvena jnayam. This should be known as a section, as a sadhana for some other people in the assembly. It is not being spoken for whom? Parikshit. It is not being spoken for Parikshit. Keshanchit annesham eva sadhanatvena jnayam. This is some other people's sadhan, and this is madhyam prakaranam, intermediate topic. So topic begins with bhakti and topic also ends with bhakti, but there is something intermediate, and that is this section. So this section of Ashtanga Yoga continues from here, 15 verse, all the way up to, second chapters, verse 31 almost. Yes. 2.31, it will continue. So this all is known as Madhyam Prakaranam. This is the intermediate topic, in between topic is there. And then again, the bhakti will be glorified from 32 onwards, second chapter, and in third chapter also, and in fourth chapter also. This is all bhakti topic, especially first three, superiority of bhakti. Bhakte he utkarsha, first three chapters. Fourth one is Hare he Sannati. It is bowing down obeisances to Lord Hari. But the three chapters in between, so in the beginning there is bhakti, and in the end there is superiority of bhakti. What is there in between is this chapter, and it is spoken as a sadhana for some other people who had that kind of idea. Vishwanath Chakravarti also says this like that. See, he says, Mriyamanasya kim kartavyam? What is the duty of a dying man? Iti prashne. If this was the question asked by Parikshit, that what is the duty of dying man? Did he ask it? He asked, right? So as soon as he asked that question, in that assembly of Shukdev, some people thought that, what should be the duty of dying man? Simple. Yogena eva swechchaya deham parityajya. He should practice Ashtanga Yoga, and by his own swechcha, he should give up the body. And sukhena eva brahma pradam praveshtum. And, very delightfully achieve the Brahma pada. So yoga abhyas eva kartavya. That's why he should do. You are asking what is the duty of dying man? The duty of dying man is yoga abhyas. You should do Ashtanga Yoga. Iti itya chikyasunam. So this was the opinion of some people over there, like that. Tan Mahasadasthanam, in that great assembly, this was the opinion of some people. So that's why he is speaking about that Ashtanga Yoga. Who Shukdev is speaking about that Ashtanga Yoga now. But for what purpose? Swamatasya Shuddha Bhakti Yogasya Punarapi Dvitiya Adhyayante Vaktavyasya Utkarshartham. See, his purpose in speaking this particular topic is what? It is Shuddha Bhakti Yogasya Utkarshartham. To show the superiority of Bhakti Yoga, he is speaking this topic in between. Like that. Swamatasya. बाकी लोगों का मत अष्टांग है, लेकिन स्वमत, स्व मीन्स who? Shukdev. Shukdev's opinion. Shukdev's opinion is what? Shuddha Bhakti Yoga only. So in order to prove the superiority, in order to speak the Utkarsha, he is doing a comparative analysis. sometimes you have to compare two things, right? By juxtaposing it next to each other, show them on the same table, and then you understand which is great, which is like that. So that is the purpose with which he is speaking. When does he speak that Utkarsha Dvitiya Adhyayante? At the end of what? Second chapter. Yes, at the end of second chapter, 2.32 onwards. So in order to speak that, he is speaking this particular section. You understand? That is the purpose. Because some of the members in the assembly, Mahasadasthana, in that assembly, some members had that opinion that yes, actually Ashtanga Yoga is the process they should be doing. You know, Mriyamanasya, how one should give a body simple. One should practice Ashtanga Yoga, and he should do Shat Chakra Yoga, and raise your life air, and through Brahmarandra, leave the body, achieve Brahma. And this was the opinion. So Shukdev analyzes their opinion by, and he analyzes it elaborately. So this is how in Bhagavatam, when we say Bhagavatam is a Paramhamsa Samhita, we should also know that there are the topics which will be spoken in a comparative manner in Bhagavatam. Paramhamsa Samhita doesn't mean that the only topic that is spoken is for Paramhamsas. But there is also the topic spoken for conditioned souls, isn't it? That's also the purpose of Bhagavatam. Although Paramhamsa Samhita Bhagavatam is relished by the topmost people, but it also has the purpose of delivering the conditioned souls, isn't it? Yaswanubhava Akhila Shruti Saram Ekam Adhyatma Deepam Atiti Tirshatam Tamondham Samsarinam Karunayaha Purana Voyam. He has spoken it for samsaris also. So if he has spoken for samsaris, samsari ka to bahut kuch mat hai na. So he also refutes those ideologies. Atitirshatam tamondham. Those who want to very atishayena, those who want to intensely cross over, tamondham. For such people, he is speaking this Puran like that, meaning especially the aspect of the Shuddha Bhakti is so much highlighted. So you see that this is how Vyasdev or Shukdev also speak about all these topics. Sometimes we may get a question, right? Like, why he is speaking about Ashtanga Yoga? That to 7 days are there only. Speak about directly about some Raslila or like that, right? So yes, that is Parikshit's Adhikar, sure shot, no doubt about it. But one aspect is also that this Puran is being spoken for Parikshit as well as for all others. That's why it is Lokahitam, isn't it? We said that Lokahitam, this particular Puran. So this is it. Anarthopashamam sakshat bhakti yogam adhakshaje lokasya janato vidvans chakre satvad samhitam. Are bhai, Satvat Samhita he has done, Chakre, he has compiled it for ajanataha lokas, for the ignorant souls of this world, because anarthopashamam can happen like that. So that is also the purpose of Bhagavatam. So Bhagavatam is speaking, it has to have the sadhya sadhan taratamya. Srila Jiva Goswami says, sadhya sadhan taratamya. Kya uchit sadhya hai, kya uchit sadhan hai. Isme jo hierarchy hai, taratamya, it has to address it. Then it becomes naturally for all the conditioned souls also, it will be most enlightening. So this is how Bhagavatam has all those other aspects also. That's why as a Mahapuran, it has other topics apart from Ashraya also. But very wonderful thing is, see, there are other Mahapuranas also, apart from Bhagavatam. There are other Mahapuranas also. There is Matsya, it's also Mahapuran. Padma is also Mahapuran. But what is the speciality of Bhagavatam is, what is that? Dashamasya Vishuddhyartham Navana Miha Lakshanam Varnayanti Mahatmana Shrutena Charthena Chanjasa. The peculiarity, not peculiarity, but the speciality of Bhagavatam, the glory of Bhagavatam is that it speaks the Ashraya Tattva in such a way, and it speaks the other topics in such a way that all of them are geared to exclusively glorify Dasham topic, the Ashraya Tattva, that particular aspect. So in other places, Ashtanga Yoga, other Puranas, Ashtanga Yoga or Karma Kand may be glorified, but they are not spoken in a way that Bhakti's Utkarsha can, Bhakti's superiority can be established. They are glorified as the paths in themselves, independent paths which can lead to a great benefit for jivas and all that. But that is not how Bhagavatam speaks, although it is also one of the Mahapuranas and has Mahapuranas topics. But everything in Bhagavatam is directed in that manner. So sometimes you may have somebody like Daksha speaking about that Karmakand. So somebody can say, "Nare, ye Karmakand philosophy Bhagavatam mein kya kar raha hai?" So Tadvayasam Tirtham Ushanti Manasa. You only said, right? So this is what? This is Vayasam Tirtham only. But then Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti, in his commentary to this this verse, Na yatra vachas chitram padam harer yasho, he says there, he analyzes this particular aspect where he says that in Bhagavatam, even though such episodes are there, you should see what is the katha prasanga. You should not see the individual's words, but you should see the katha prasanga. What's happening? So katha prasanga means what? You should see the import of that particular katha, import of that particular akhyan. The import will be to show the superiority of bhakti only. Although that topic will be there, it will be compared and it will be shown that it is actually a very inferior goal. Like that. So that is the speciality of Bhagavatam. So you may find sometimes some other topics like that, but this is how Acharyas have analyzed that. This will not be there in other Puranas. If you read Puranas, Vishnu Puran or even Padma Puran and all that, sometimes you see that the topic is independently glorified actually. And that highlight of pure devotional service will not come like in Bhagavatam strikingly. If you read Vishnu Puran story from Dhruva Maharaj, you see his determination is glorified there. His determination and how he conquered, and by Vishnu's mercy he got everything, how he ruled and all that. That is what is glorified so much, that aspect, how he could achieve such a great destination. Bhagavatam, he is lamenting. Satya Ashisho hi Bhagwan Stavapada Padma. He says that actually what? Ashistata anubhajata purushartha murte. Apyevam arya Bhagwan paripati dinam. Vashreva vatsakam anugraha katarosman. He says that actually Satya Shisho, the real benediction is Lord Tavapada Padma. I was looking for some false benediction actually. But real benediction is your own, lotus feet that you have given to me. Vashreva vatsakam anugraha katar. Just as the cow is very, very affectionate to her calf, similarly, actually, you are so affectionate that even though we may desire some nonsense things, you are giving your love and affection only finally, because he purified his heart. And same, this Hari Bhakti Sudhoda is describing that, right? Sthana Bhilashi Tapasi Sthitosmi. That same feeling is there in the last prayer of Dhruva, Satya Shisho hi Bhagwan. So that is the point. So this is how Bhagavatam is very unique, and Bhagavatam is very unique in its description of these topics. Okay, so this is how text 15 onwards, this another topic of Ashtanga Yoga is coming, because that was the opinion of some of the assembly people. So Shukdev analyzes this opinion and speaks about it. Okay, so Antakale tu Purusha Agate Gata Sadhvasa. When Antakale Agate, when person comes at the last stage of his life, so such a person, because his life is going to end soon now, so he should not become fearful, but rather Gata Sadhvasaha, without any fear of death. He should Chindyat, he should cut off all his asakti, his attachment. Toward attachment to Dehe, Dehe Spraham, attachment to his body, Anuchayetam, and also those which are products of his body. Deha Kalatra and Apatya and Vitta and all that. Okay, so he should Asanga Shastrena, by the weapon of detachment, he should cut down the Spriha, cut down the desire. He should wipe off the desire towards maintenance of this body, that no, I want to live, I should live, I want to live more. Why? I don't want to die, like that. And Anuchayetam, and also the products of this body, the wife and children and all, whatever, rest of the things, like that. So he's saying the person who is at the last stage of one's life, whether he comes to know or whether by natural progression of the age like that. Such a person should not be afraid of death. And because in fact, death can come at any moment. So in a way that he's telling about this consciousness to be there, always one has that kind of consciousness that way. So no need of fear, but rather one wants to get detached himself from all this body and the products of the body. That is what he is saying. So especially on the marg, especially for the path of Ashtanga Yoga, of course, equally applicable for the other paths, but he's speaking now about the Ashtanga Yoga aspect. So anybody who wants to practice that particular Ashtanga Yoga to become fearless at the time of death. So then he's speaking about this aspects. Prabhupada in purport. Foolishness of gross materialism is that people think of making a permanent settlement in this world. Although it is a settled fact that one has to give up everything here that has been created by valuable human energy. So they want to do permanent settlement, but Prabhupada says it's a settled fact that nobody can be, nobody can stay here permanently. You have to give up everything. Smaranityam anityatam. There is always anityata like that, but still everybody wants to be permanently situated over here, right? So Prabhupada says this poor fund of knowledge, even in the so-called learned circles of the world, is killing the vitality of human energy. And the awful result is being keenly felt. So even sometimes there are great scientists, philosophers, very learned leaders of the society, but even they are not aware of this basic fact that one has to give up the life and move to the next destination. So that's why we see that people are so much attached to whatever the post, position, the facilities, and all those aspects which are there coming through that, like that. But it's actually, if one understands that there is a time to perform the service, perform our responsibility, and there is also the time to move on and allow somebody else to do that particular seva like that. And, one may be able to focus on the other aspects of devotional service, right? Right. Life is not like a 100-meter sprint. Our Chaitanya Charan Prabhu says it's like a relay. So imagine in 4x400 relay, you have that baton. So one fellow wants to only run all throughout. Relay. The baton is taken and one runs 100 meters, then he hands over to the next person. 200 meters, and then he hands over to the next person, and then he completes the rest. कोई बोलता है नहीं मैं ही दौड़ूंगा अकेला end तक. So how he will not be able to compete, right? He will not be able to, because the further generations, they are more competent, they are having youthful energy and all that. So what I'm just trying to make the point is, one has to also understand that there is time for also giving up certain role, certain position, and take up some other aspects of service, which will be, especially here in terms of the last moment of the last stage of life, like that. So that attachment Prabhupada is addressing. So in the second para also he speaks about this, how people attach very great importance to temporary life. And there are even leaders making all patriotic claims and all that. Fine. So Prabhupada says, therefore, one has to only change the aspiration during the course of this present body. And for this, there is a need of training in the current duration of human life. This training can be begun at any stage of life, or even a few seconds before death. But the usual procedure is for one to get the training from very early life, from the stage of brahmacharya, and then progress to grihastha, vanaprastha, sannyasa. So Prabhupada, that's why Prabhupada brings up the need of training. If you don't see that kind of detachment in these people, and they want to be attached to their body and their posts and their resources, and they don't have any further understanding of higher goals of life. So it's a lack of training, Prabhupada says. That's why one should be trained. That yes, there is a time, meaning there is student life, brahmacharya, there is grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas, right? So people should be able to take up proper phases of life at proper times, isn't it? Not that till the last moment of life they want to stay in the house only. And even the son and the daughter-in-law and everybody is disturbed by them, troubled by them, and trying to control their lives also that way. Okay. So Shastra say Panchashordhvam Vanam Vrajet. You have led your life as a Grahastha. Now you don't so much interfere with the life of the second generation, even for their own sake and even for sake of these own people, like that. Rigved says Samradni Bhava. Rigved has some mantras in which it is said to the daughter-in-law that the mother-in-law is saying, I had been empress all this while of the house, Samradni. Now it is your time. So I will be quitting. Samradni Bhava. You be the empress. Like that. But then we see that in modern times, because that kind of training is not there, right? So, people want to so much intervene in the life of their children and all that. So they need that freedom, space. So I'm saying this from the context of house. I'm talking it about all other contexts also, that there is a need that everybody understands their role of service and all that, and then they move on, for further things in the life. Hand over the baton to the second generation, next generation, who can raise the bar even further that way. So like that. So Prabhupada says that is why this training is very important. If somebody is not trained in brahmacharya, then he will be not able to, accept life of vanaprastha or further sannyas and all that this way. The best thing, therefore, that everyone voluntarily give up family relations by transferring attachment from family, society, country, and everything thereof to the devotional service of the Lord. This. So Prabhupada is saying one must have a chance for better desires. Otherwise, there is no chance of giving up such morbid desires. You will be able to give a family attachment only if you have understanding of some better desires. One must have a chance for better desires. Otherwise, there is no chance of giving up morbid desires. Otherwise, one will not have any understanding and he will just stay attached in family life day after day, making his own life also miserable, others' life also miserable. So there is the aspect of taking care of giving samskaras and taking care of the dependents and all that. But once that is fulfilled, then one should move on further on the path of detachment. So that is what Prabhupada is addressing this. Okay. So now from this verse onwards, this Ashtanga Yoga is spoken in terms of its limbs. This text 16 onwards, it talks about yama, niyam, asan, pranayam and all that. So we can see this quickly. Text 16. Grahat pravrajito dhiraha punyatirtha jalaplutaha shucho vivikta asino vidhivat kalpita sanai. Yes. Translation.
One should leave home and practice self-control. In a sacred place, he should bath regularly and sit down in a lonely place, duly sanctified.
Yeah. So one should give up the house. This path is what? Which path is this? Ashtanga Yoga. It is being spoken for Ashtanga Yoga. Okay. So some of these principles are applicable in other paths also, but this is primarily being spoken for Ashtanga Yoga. Grahat pravrajito dhiraha. He should leave the house, pravrajito. He should leave it for good, permanently, that way. Nirgataha, nitaram gataha. That's it. It's not that aata hu sham ko wapis. I'm leaving now. I'm coming back in the evening. Thoda din mein Ashtanga Yoga in forest. Like that. No. Grahat pravrajito dhiraha. Punyatirtha jalaplutaha. And staying in a place, especially purified in holy waters of Punya Tirthas. So this dhiraha, this is speaking about the aspect of yama. With dhira, 5 aspects of yama are being spoken. Brahmacharya, ahimsa, satya, asteya, and aparigraha in Yama, there are 5 aspects. There is Brahmacharya, there is Ahimsa, there is Satya, there is Asteya and Aparigraha. So these all 5 aspects are talking about. So by Dhira, especially that aspect of Brahmacharya is being spoken as a representative. In philosophical language, it is called as Upalakshanam. When you speak something as a representative of whole thing, that is called as Upalakshanam. So यहाँ पे धीर जो है वो उपलक्षणम है of the Yama process, entire Yama process. Okay, like that. Like, yes, so fine, that is the thing. Yama. Then Shuchau Viviktas, Shuchau is Upalakshanam of Niyama process. Shuchau, it shows the Niyam aspect. Niyam also has 5 aspects in it. Shaucha, Santosha, Tapaha, Swadhyay, Ishwar Pranidhanam. These are the 5 aspects within the Niyama also, like that. Staying in a very clean place and internal, external cleanliness. Santosh, being satisfied. Tapaha, practice austerity. Swadhyaya, these people also do Swadhyaya. They study scriptures. Not that they directly sit for meditation. They also study scriptures. And then finally, Ishwar Pranidhana. They also worship the Lord. They worship the Lord. They have to have Ishwar Pranidhana, like that. Okay. So, later in one of the verses, Srila Shukdev Goswami will speak about yoga. When we say yoga, yoga, Yama, Niyam, Asan, Pranayam, these are the first 4 stages. Then Pratyahar, Dharana, Dhyan, Samadhi, right? So in that Dharana stage has one object of meditation, which is called as Dharana Shray. So that Dharana Shray has to be devotional, especially it has to be the form of Paramatma. Or for those who are not purified, it can be also Vishwarupa. But it cannot be, Dharana Shray cannot be mundane in order to achieve moksha. Very clear Bhagavatam's message. If you think that you will achieve Brahman by Brahma, you will achieve moksha by meditating on candle or on blue bulb, red bulb, which all these modern yogis speak about. There is nothing like that actually. It is a bogus process if somebody says like that. That Dharana Shray kya hai? If you see in outside also, many yogis, so-called yogis, they teach such things. Their Dharana Shray is some bulb, or they say whatever object you like. So if somebody likes some film star or whatever, and he takes that as Dharana Shray, instead of purification, what will happen actually? Contamination, more contamination, he will be more agitated, with thoughts of sense enjoyment. So it's a very bogus process. So your abhideya has to be transcendental to achieve prayojan that is transcendental. If your abhideya is mundane, by that you will achieve transcendental prayojan. Is it possible? It is not possible. Okay. So that is why Bhagavatam speaks that even the yogis who want to achieve Brahma, they also have to have transcendental abhideya. Dharana Shray, if it is not transcendental, they will not be able to achieve that. So that is the point. So either that Dharana Shray on the advanced level is Paramatma, or on the beginner level, it is Viraj, Vairaj Roop, Virat Roop, like that. But then that is the point. Apart from this, if some other Dharana Shray is being suggested, Bhagavata asammata, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Bhagavatam rejects such Dharana Shrayas and all that. So, what all goes on in the name of Ashtanga Yoga today is some joke only. It is not bona fide. You can understand that it is just some sort of speculation which is there. So point is, Shuchau Vivikta Asino. Shuchau here means the aspect of Niyama. Vivikta, the place is also solitary. It is not that you perform Ashtanga Yoga in the hustle bustle of the town, sitting there and watching over the all traffic of the city. What I do, Ashtanga Yoga, like that. And these yoga studios are like that, where you sit on the terrace and then you see whole city's panorama, like that. And then they think that this is their Vivikta Desh. Also, Shuchi, the place should be pure. What is the reason, pure meaning? It is already saying it is 1 hour like that, but pure means Sridhar Swami or Vishwanath Chakravarti, he says that pure means basically free from materialistic people. That is pure. So if you have yogis all around you, so-called yogis, who are all looking for bhoga for yoga, then is that Shuchi? And is that Vivikta? Both the aspects are completely missing actually, like that. So modern Ashtanga yoga practice is actually, that's why. It's not even Ashtanga yoga, you know that. It is just first 4 aspects. It is Hatha yoga. Hatha yoga pradipika, they will say. They will not even speak about further 4 angas so much. And even if they speak, then they have such dharnashray, which is the mundane objects and all that. So this way, Shucho Vivikta Asino Vidhivat Kalpitasane. So this person, he stabilizes himself by yama, by niyama. Then he practices asana, asino Vidhivat Kalpitasane. With proper processes of asana, he knows the asanas and he's trained in it, or he gets the training in it by other yogis and all. And he practices proper process of yama, niyam, asan, Vidhivat. This asan is typically made up of kusha grass, and then also deer skin, and then also the cloth, and all those such things are mentioned over here, like that. So this is talking about basically 3 aspects: yama, niyam, and asana. Okay. So Prabhupada says in purport, to prepare oneself for the better next life, one must get out of one's so-called home. Pravrajito. Prabhupada says, modern civilization is based on family comforts, the highest standard of amenities. And therefore, after retirement, everyone expects to live a very comfortable life. In a well-furnished home decorated with fine ladies and children, without any desire to get out of such a comfortable home. In one place, Prabhupada says that the conditioned souls first wants, beautiful lady as his wife, and then he wants beautiful lady as his daughter, and then he wants beautiful ladies as his daughter-in-law. Basically, he wants to surround himself with fine ladies, like that. Fine ladies and children, as here also he is saying, without any desire to get out of such a comfortable home. High government officers and ministers stick to their prized posts until death, and they neither dream nor desire to get out of homely comforts. Very strong words. Bound by such hallucination, materialistic men prepare various plans for a still more comfortable life. But suddenly cruel death comes without mercy and takes away the great plan maker against his desire, forcing him to give up the present body for another body, right? And so they may have great plans of making their life more comfortable, more opulent, but the death comes without notice and suddenly takes the great plan maker also, like that. So Prabhupada tells about one scientist who was the head of Planning Commission of India, Dr. Saha, Meghnad Saha. So he says that, he was going for a meeting of Planning Commission, planning for India's, technological and other aspects, the development and all that. And while going for Planning Commission, he got a heart attack and he died on the spot, like that. So yes, the plan maker is taken away by death against his desire, this way. So that's why in order to be saved from the danger of spoiling human form of life and being attached to unreal things, one must take warning of death at the age of 50, if not earlier, at least at the age of 50. Panchashordhvam vanam vraje, like that. So that is the point. Death is giving its warning in terms of disease, in terms of the old age, body losing its capacity to remember, that way, right? So one should take those indications and start preparing like that. Life is not to just hang around in material life, to continue enjoying this way. So Prabhupada is speaking strongly about that aspect of detachments, like that. So Prabhupada says, But sometimes even somebody may take up that retired life, but it will begin second inning of enjoyment. It should not happen like that. Second innings is there, but then what is that? It is again some, sense enjoyment in the dham, like that. See, one should not, however, become self-complacent simply by leaving home or by creating another home at the holy place, either lawfully or unlawfully. Uh, Many persons leave home and go to such holy places, but due to bad association, again become family men by illicit connection with the opposite sex. See, the illusory energy of matter is so strong that one is apt to be under such illusion at every stage of life, even after quitting one's happy home. So sometimes it may be like that. One is going with great delight to take up the retired life, but if he's not in proper association and is not serious about it, if he's just taking it as another chance of leading a cozy life, then one may indulge into undesirable things like that. So especially that is the point. It is essential that one practice self-control by celibacy, dhiraha, without the least desire for sex indulgence. For a man desiring to improve the condition of his existence, sex indulgence is considered suicidal or even worse. That so it's very, very important aspect of brahmacharya that is being stressed as the part of yama itself, and equally applicable for those who are aspirants of renounced order of life, all brahmacharis, sannyasis, isn't it? That yes, the other yesterday, day before yesterday, we were saying that matha medhi, isn't it? Not that we come to matha and then we become matha medhi. Not much serious about purifying our lives, pleasing Guru and Vaishnavas, right? So that should not happen like that. So fine. Text 17. Now text 17 will speak about the aspect of pratyahar, pranayam and pratyahar. Abhyasen manasa shuddham trivrud brahmaksharam param mano yache jita shvaso brahma bijam vismaran.
After sitting in the above manner, make the mind remember the three transcendental letters Om, and by regulating the breathing process, control the mind so as not to forget the transcendental seed.
Yeah. So after this, what he does after perfecting asanas like swastikasana and all that, this process is described in details also in the 3.28, third canto, 28th chapter. You can find further details. Abhyasen manasa shuddham trivrat brahmaksharam param. So he practices pranayam, pranayam, inhaling, exhaling, controlling kumbhak, purak, rechak, all that. He does that. And while doing that, manasa trivrat brahmaksharam param abhyaset. In his mind, he chants trivrat brahmaksharam, meaning omkar. He chants omkar within his mind. In mind, it is easy to chant loudly, vyaharet, but it is here said manasa abhyaset. He, in his mind, he chants omkar. Like that. Oh, he's saying, then he's leaving it that way. Anyway, we don't have to practice. I'm just telling the process. This is what is the process. Trivrad brahmaksharam param. So that is spoken for pranav. That is omkar. Mano yachet jitashvaso. So in this way, he becomes jitashvasa. So that is the perfection of pranayam process. Jitashvasa. And then what he should do? Mano yachet Brahma Bijam Avismaran. So this is talking about, so in this way, he should bring the mind under control. The process of asana is to, help in sense control, while the process of pranayam is by those breathing air, calm down the mind. So mano yachet, that's the purpose. You should bring mind to control, and all the while not forgetting Brahma Bij, not forgetting Pranav Omkar, always making sure that he's in that breathing process, he's always remembering Pranav Omkar in this way. So, fine. Prabhupada in purport, he talks about Omkar or Pranav. Chanting it within the mind, chanting Omkar within the mind, in conjunction with the breathing process, is a transcendental mechanical way of getting into trance. It's a transcendental mechanical way. Prabhupada says transcendental mechanical way, because there is this breathing aspect, but then there is also chanting of the Om. So Omkar has that transcendental potency. So that is what is he saying, devised by great experienced mystics this way. In this way, one is able to bring one's materially absorbed mind under control and change the habit of the mind. The mind is not to be killed. Mind or desire cannot be stopped. But to develop a desire to function for spiritual realization, one has to change the quality of engagement by the mind. Yes, so you can't kill the mind, right? You can neglect the mind. But even better is to engage the mind with superior engagement. Purify the mind. Fill the mind with spiritual thoughts, like that, because even if you neglect it, it will come back. For some time it will stay quiet, but then it will again come back. So if mind is engaged positively, just as here it is engaged in remembering Omkar, meaning with manasa, that is called as smaran, within mind, nama smaran, Omkar smaran, that is the thing. So Prabhupada speaks about Omkar and Hare Krishna also. He says that this Omkar is a note of address, such as, "Oh my Lord," just as Om Hari Om means, "Oh my Lord," the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? Sometimes we hear Om, we feel like Omkar means he's saying some mundane word or giving some bad word or like that. We feel, but that is not Omkar. No, Omkar is, uma. Akarena Vishnuhu uchyate, Shrihi Ukarena uchyate, Anayostu Makarena tu Anayodasaha Panchavisha Prakirtitaha. This is definition of Akar, Ukar, and Makar as per Padma Puran. Jiva Goswami quotes this in Paramatma Sandarbha. Akarena Vishnuhu uchyate, Shrihi Ukarena uchyate, Anayo. And by Makar, meaning Akar is Vishnu, Ukar is Shri, Lakshmi ji, and by Makara, Anayotu Dasaha, in case Das, in dono ke Das, Panchavishaha Prakirtita. Like that he quotes. So actually Omkar has the aspect of that transcendental potency of the Lord. So if sometimes Vaishnavas also chant Omkar. Many of the South Indian Vaishnavas and all, there is practice in which they chant Omkar, but it is with this understanding. Akarena Krishna uchyate, ukarena tu Shri Radha. Even in Gaudiya Sampradaya, Raghav Pandit Goswami, he has written a verse like that. So the point is, yes, Omkar is not some, it's not some mundane sound vibration. It's a transcendental sound vibration. It's just that it is seen as secular. See, if you tell somebody to chant Hare Krishna, then he may feel like, oh, you are making him Vaishnava, Vaishnava, like that. But if you just chant him, if you tell him to chant Omkar, then it is secular, right? But then he is not aware Akarena, that aspect particular. And Omkar also has multiple meanings. There is a Vaishnava scholar who has written a book on 100 meanings of Omkar, found in Upanishads and Puranas and all. So it has multiple meanings like that. Yes, primarily it is seen as impersonal sound vibration, but for Vaishnavas, even Omkar is a transcendental sound vibration. So Prabhupada is saying like that. As we have explained before, the Lord's holy name is identical with Lord himself. So also is Omkar. But persons who are unable to realize the transcendental personal form or name of the Lord on account of their imperfect senses are trained in the practice of self-realization by this mechanical process. So that is the point. Those who have difficulty in accepting transcendental form or transcendental name, Mukhya Naam of the Supreme Lord, they can be asked to chant Pranava Omkar, and thereby they will get the purification like that. Pranavaha Sarva Vedeshu. In fact, that is considered the main Shabda Brahma. Krishna speaks, Lord, I think it's Lord Sankarsana speaks in 6th canto, and he says that in material world, my two forms are Shashvat, you know. So he says one form is Shabda Brahma and another form is Parabrahma. So he says the main Shabda Brahma, meaning Shabda Brahma and Parabrahma. So Parabrahma are all the avatars, the transcendental forms, and Shabda Brahma is like Vedas and Omkar and all that. So Baldev Vidyabhushan says that the main form of Shabda Brahma is Pranav. From Pranav only all the Vedas and everything have emanated. And main form of Parabrahma is Sri Krishna. So he says like that in one of his books. So that's why Omkar is considered source of all the Vedic scriptures. Even Bhagavatam is glorified as Tarankura. It is an Ankura of Tar. Tar is referring to Pranava, like that. So in the sense of, because Pranav is considered the main Shabda Brahma, and then from there all the Vedas and everything have emanated. That's the understanding. Okay. Text 18. Nishayechad vishayebhyo vishayobhyokshat manasa buddhi sarathihi manah karma bhirakshiptam shubharte dharayedhya. Yes.
Gradually, as the mind becomes progressively spiritualized, withdraw it from sense activities, and by intelligence, the senses will be controlled. The mind, too absorbed in material activities, can be engaged in the service of the personality of Godhead and become fixed in full transcendental consciousness.
Yes. So last verse spoke about the pranayam. Now here, the first line of the verse is speaking about pratyahar, and the second line is speaking about dharana. Niyachet vishayebhyah akshat manasa buddhi sarathi. So after accomplishing pranayam, one should, by the dint of his intelligence, buddhi sarathi. Sarathi, buddhi is his sarathi. By that, manasa vishayebhyoho niyachet. So what he should do, that such a person should, move his senses away, the thoughts in the senses, all the indriyas and mana, they should be taken away from all the sense objects. It's basically pratyahar. All the senses, jnanendriyas and all, they should not think about the sense objects. All the thoughts should be taken. So Buddhi speaks about how the futility of all these sense objects and all that. And pratyahar, one takes away all the shabda roop sparsha rasa gandha from those particular jnanendriyas. One doesn't think. And even mana has its sense object as thought. So what one tries to do is one wants to get rid of all these sense objects from those particular senses. So he remembers the instructions of scriptures by Buddhi, and then he wants to free himself from all these sense objects, thoughts like that. But it is not very easy on that process, because you are just trying to get rid of sense objects from the mind. But what is the positive thought for the mind? So that's why it is said next verses, next line, manah karma bhirakshiptam shubharte dharayedhya. But actually, the mind is so much agitated, akshiptam. Prabhupada, how does it translate? Being absorbed. Okay, yes. So because of its prior karmas, samskaras, mana is so much absorbed in sense objects. So that's why this accomplishing freedom from thoughts of sense objects can be only accomplished by dharana. You have to have dharana. Shubharthe dharayedhya, like that. So this is why you need mind to focus on some shubhartha, shubhe arthe. Shubha artha means some very auspicious dharana, like that. Shubharthe. Prabhupada also says, Prabhupada directly translates it as Lord. What is that shubhartha? What is that most auspicious object which is there for dharana? That is Paramatma. That is the form of the Lord. So only when that dharana aspect is there, then one will be able to get rid of this solid agitation, absorption of the mind caused due to prior karmas. So Shubharte here refers to that Paramatma as the dharana. So he's speaking the two aspects, pranayam and dharana, in these verses, like that. So Prabhupada also is addressing these stages as he's speaking in his purport. This is first pranayam, and then he says after pranayam, final stage is samadhi. So in between there is this pratyahar and also dharana and dhyan and samadhi, like that. Prabhupada says, experience has proven that even the samadhi stage also fails to control the materially absorbed mind. For example, the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, became a victim of the senses and cohabited with Menaka. So what happens in these cases, the samadhi stage is achieved by these people, which is continuous remembrance, but that continuous remembrance, even if it is for a certain duration, yogis have different durations, that is also called as samadhi. If one is able to focus continuously for certain duration without any thoughts, that is also called as samadhi. But even after stage of samadhi, sometimes it is seen that person again becomes what you can say, agitated by the thoughts and the desires and all that. This is there. So Prabhupada is saying that's why the great mystic Vishwamitra Muni, even in the stage of samadhi, becomes a victim of the senses, like that. So that samadhi literally has to achieve such a perfection that he is continuously able to, focus his heart, focus his mind on the Supreme Lord, that way. Later we will see further, it is there in one of the sections. There is two kinds of samadhi. There is sampradnyat samadhi and asampradnyat samadhi. So usually samadhi meaning we would consider that one is able to see within his heart the form of Paramatma, right? No, actually, that is Paramatma realization. Samadhi is one is able to continuously focus by his ability. Of course, that also needs Lord's mercy, but he is able to continuously focus by that mechanical process. His mind is not wavering. That is called as samadhi, that way. So he is remembering the Supreme Lord, and in his heart, meditating by his focus, by his practice of dharana and dhyan. And if he's able to continuously focus, that becomes samadhi. But the point is the realization of Paramatma, where he's actually able to see in the heart, it is a further stage. It is not that samadhi is the same stage. No. Paramatma manifesting the presence within the heart, that is higher stage of samadhi. So it is talked in two ways, basically, samadhi, like that. So this topic will come again. That time we can talk. I'll just explain this. So that is why Prabhupada is saying, even in the stage of samadhi, you understand why he's saying that one can become a victim of the senses? Because it is not a realization of Paramatma. It is by one's efforts and abilities, he is able to focus for certain duration. Sometimes they have, Patanjali speaks about 7 into 7 into 7, those seconds, or like that kind of aspect of samadhi also spoken that way. So this is why Prabhupada writes, therefore Shukdev Goswami recommends the next step of assured policy, namely to fix one's mind in the service of personality of Godhead. What is he referring to? Yeah? Shubharte, exactly. He's referring to dharana. Namely to fix one's mind in the service of personality of Godhead. You understand? See, yogi क्या करने वाला है सेवा भगवान की? वो तो बैठा है ना in his dhyana. So is that after pratyahar, and then he will say, okay, thoda Vaishnav ko prasad service karke aata hu, like that. That is not how it is, right? So Prabhupada means by that it is dharana, basically. But Prabhupada has unique flavor in which he translates in devotional terms, because he is more concerned about what people should follow, isn't it? You give technical details because this is a course. You should know what the verse stands for and all. But then finally, is it really relevant? So later also, Krama Mukti and Sadhya Mukti, that topic is there. Shukdev Goswami is speaking yoga path. Prabhupada is not worried at all. He is speaking. So that's why such a yogi remembers Supreme Personality of Godhead and goes to Golok, goes to Vaikuntha. There he is speaking, he is going to Brahma. But so because he knows that this process is anyway not practical. So sometimes to be able to make the sense of verses based on Prabhupada's mood. So sometimes people get bewildered that like that. Huh? So then you can also refer to some commentary. What is the topic there? Huh? So that is how. But Prabhupada knows everything, obviously. He is aware of entire system. In between, somewhere he will just explain. So this is dharana process. So you understand, he is clearly telling what it is. But then he will say that anyway, it is not practical. So we should do this thing. Same way in Bhagavad Gita. Right, in Bhagavad Gita, he will do like that only. Verse is speaking yoga or verse is speaking Nishkam Karma Yoga. Both are anyway not very practical. So Prabhupada would say you should practice Bhakti Yoga and interpret that verse as Bhakti Yoga, which is perfectly justified. Huh? So here also he's writing like that. Text 19. Tatraeka vayamam dhyayed avyuchinnena chetasa mano nirvishayam yuktva tatah kinchan na smaret padam tatparamam vishnor mano yatra prasidati.
Therefore, you should meditate upon the limbs of Vishnu, one after another, without being deviated from the conception of the complete body. Thus, the mind becomes free from all sense objects. There should be no other thing to be thought upon. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vishnu is the ultimate truth, the mind becomes completely reconciled in Him only.
Yeah. So this verse is speaking about dhyanam and it is also speaking about samadhi. Till last verse we saw about dharana. Now this is speaking about dhyanam. What is difference between dhyan and dharana? You know, it is said, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti says, Ashray Visheshe Samanyataha Chitta Sthirikaranam. The Ashray Vishesh, meaning Dharnashray, the object of meditation, Samanyataha Chitta Sthirikaran. Focusing your mind from all other objects to the object of your meditation in a general sense is known as dharana. When you start focusing on one limb, that is called as dhyanam. Okay. Dharana is a general focus. From your thoughts to other sense objects, move that away and bring it to Paramatma. Paramatma's form, whole form, like that. So, just remembering that form within his meditation like that. And then now, after that is, he becomes stably, he is able to remember. Stably, he is able to see that Paramatma form. See in the sense by his efforts, seeing like that. So he is able to see. Then after that, he starts meditating on one limb of Paramatma. So that particular aspect is known as dhyanam. Ekek avayavam dhyayet. So right from Lord's toenails, they meditate on one. So your 3.28, third canto 28th chapter explains that, right? What is that? Dhyayet Bhagavatas Charana Ravindam. Right? All that series of verses, it explains that. How they meditate limb by limb, right from toenails of the Lord, then toes of the Lord, then, calves of the Lord, then on his knees, and slowly, like that, they meditate on entire form of the Lord. So it's a intense meditation process, smaranam process, where they have to be very focused like that. So that is the point. So that's why it is not very easy process. Only here the mercy aspect is coming because of the dharanashray, which is Paramatma, like that. So tatreka vayam dhyayed avyuchinnena chetasa. With a very focused, undiverted mind, one should be focusing on one limb of the Lord. Mano nirvishayam yuktva tatah kinchan na smaret. Mind should not go to any other object. It should only focus on that particular limb of the Lord. Padam tat paramam Vishnu mano yatra prasidati. So in this way, one will be able to achieve continuous meditation on the Supreme Lord, by which mind will become completely prasidati, becomes completely reconciled, becomes completely happy, delighted. So that is showing the stage of samadhi in this particular case, like that. He is able to achieve that continuous meditation without getting diverted, at least for an accepted duration of time. So that would be considered as the level of samadhi. So these people by this samadhi level obviously become extremely purified. And it's a smaranam, no? So smaranam will not work. Just somebody who has not done great antakaran shuddhi, little bit he tries to meditate and so many thoughts will come, right? His mind will be completely bewildered. Sometimes people cannot close eyes also. People cannot sit also at one place, right? People 5 minutes also they cannot sit peacefully. Some people at one place, immediately restless they'll become. So here he has to sit at one place and meditate in that fashion. Focus his complete energy, and the object is completely meditated within the heart. It is not like DT. DT is there in front of you and you can meditate very peacefully. And that way it's not. It is all within the heart that the yogi is meditating. So it's a tough process as such. But it is a mechanical process. It allows one to be able to think of Lord Vishnu like that. All this while the purpose of this yogi is what? The purpose is to merge in Brahman only. This is Bhakti Mishra Yoga. Okay, this entire process is Bhakti Mishra Yoga. It is not Yog Mishra Bhakti. So Bhakti Mishra Yoga means his purpose is he wants to finally achieve moksha only. But then for that he has to be able to realize Paramatma. Without that he cannot achieve moksha. It's not possible. So that is why Bhakti Mishra Yoga process, although he is meditating on Vishnu or Paramatma like that. So Prabhupada, thinking of Vishnu or meditating upon transcendental form of Vishnu, specifically upon Lord Krishna, is the last word on subject of meditation. That way. So that is the final object of meditation, Prabhupada says. The Vishnu forms of worship in great temples of India are not therefore arrangements of idol worship. So Prabhupada connects this, how this process is difficult, but actually deity worship and meditating on deity is, that's the process of bhaktas. When you meditate on the deity, then that is not considered Ashtanga Yoga, because deity is Bhagavan feature. Deity is not Paramatma feature. Even though that deity is Vishnu, but still deity will be Paramatma, not Paramatma, but it is a Bhagavan feature. A Lord who is manifesting in front of us as a local, as a form like that. So in that way, for Paramatma meditators, they have to meditate within the heart only, this way. So Prabhupada says that actually it is a blessing to be able to have deity worship and thereby, meditate on deity, serve the deity, be purified by serving the deity like that, this way. Therefore, a neophyte's concentration or meditation upon the limbs of Vishnu in the temple, as contemplated in the revealed scriptures, is an easy opportunity for meditation for persons who are unable to sit down tightly at one place and then concentrate upon Pranam Omkar and do this, that, and all. Best process, Prabhupada is saying, easy processes to meditate on the deity form of the Lord this way. Okay. Just quickly, 2-3 verses and we'll stop. Rajastamobhyam akshiptam vimudam mana atmanah yachedharanaya dhiro hantiya tatkritam malam. Yes.
One's mind is always agitated by the passionate mode of material nature and bewildered by the ignorant mode of nature. But one can rectify such conceptions by the relation of Vishnu and thus become pacified by cleansing the dirty things created by them.
So now this verse is saying something interesting. Rajastamobhyam akshiptam vimudam mana atmana yached dharanaya dhiro hantiya tatkritam malam. See, the mind which is very much bewildered because of what Rajas and Tamas, if it is just akshiptam, it is filled with Rajas and Tamas. Such a mind, he says that, will not allow one to be able to, in this way, meditate like that in samadhi. So what he has to do is, yached dharanaya dhiro hantiya tatkritam malam. So for such a person whose mind is extremely agitated by Rajas and Tamas, such a person will not be able to meditate on Paramatma. He is not qualified for it. So for such person, it is said, Srila Goswami explains in the explanation of this verse, is that he should take to Virat Roop meditation. He will not be able to do Paramatma meditation, so he should take to Virat Roop meditation. See, his mind is so much absorbed in material phenomena that for him to accept a form of Supreme Lord like transcendental is not possible. He is not able to accept that form, transcendental form, and then meditate on him. One thing is because of his rajas and tamas, so much, desires for material enjoyment. But second aspect is also because such a person, he is not able to accept the transcendental form of the Lord. See, because of his previous samskaras, right? Sometimes you tell people about Krishna, his personal form. If they come from a certain background of jnani and all that, they cannot accept that. So for them, something like universal form, this makes the sense, a form which is infinite, a form where, sun and moon are the eyes and all these things, they make perfect sense. So they have more sort of impersonalistic tinge. That is one thing. And second is they also don't have the necessary antakaran shuddhi to be able to meditate on Paramatma. They won't be able to do it. So for such people, what is said is they should do this dharana, this another dharana called as Vairaj dharana or Virat Roop dharana. Their dharanashray will not be Paramatma, but what will he be? Yes? Virat Roop. Yeah, it will be Virat Roop. So Virat Roop has the aspect of all the material aspects are there within that. So by meditating on Virat Roop, such people, they slowly develop the aspect of personal conception of the Lord, because whole universe is seen as the vibhutis, the limbs of that one form, which is the personal form, like that. And then slowly by that Virat Roop meditation, seeing everything in connection to Virat Rupa, whatever they like, whatever they don't like, they hate something, they connect it everything to that Virat Rupa. Suppose they have asuric mentality, and if they hate devas, so devas are angas of Virat Rupa, so they see like that. Asuras, they see like that. Irreligion, back of that Virat Rupa. So everything they connect to Virat Rupa. And meditating like that, then their attachments and envy, hatred, and all that slowly starts coming down, like that. Actually, it is also difficult process only. It's not very easy, especially because we are doing Shravanam, Kirtanam, so we understand that ye kya hai, khatarnak process, like that. But then, those who are on that path and all, they have these meditations, Virat Roop, Vibhuti Yoga. Why did Lord Krishna speak Vibhuti Yoga? It is for such people. You see sun, you see moon, you see lion, you see everything connected to that Supreme Lord. And collection of all those vibhutis is Vishwarup, like that. So devotees don't meditate on Lord's vibhutis. Jiva Goswami says that very clearly. We meditate on Krishna's Satchidananda Rupa. Satchidananda Rupa. Of course, if you see some vibhuti and you are reminded, oh, I am the taste of water, that is okay. But that is not the process. That is not the sadhan. You don't make it into a sadhan. Ki bhai taste of water, fir uske baad kya? Rasam, Rasoham Apsukonte, Prabhasmi Shashi Surya, immediately, anything you see, you remember that. No, he says they meditate on the Shama Sundar Rupa. They serve the Sham Sundar Rupa, Nama Roop, Guna Lila, Seva, Shravanam, Kirtanam. This is our process, like that. So those aspects are given for other yoga, those who do Vairaj Dharana and those who do Virat Roop meditation, and for such people, like that. Okay. So for these people who cannot accept Paramatma immediately because of their own conditionings and because of Rajas Tamas, so for such people, Vairaj Dharana is spoken. Okay, like that. So Prabhupada, I will stop with this verse. Time is over now. So tomorrow we may need probably 45 minutes or so to finish this chapter. That's it. After verse 25, it is just very quick. It's just description of Virat Rupa. Okay. So Prabhupada says here, you see, persons generally conducted by modes of passion and ignorance cannot be bona fide candidates for being situated in transcendental stage of God realization, especially on the path of Ashtanga Yoga. He's speaking in Ashtanga Yoga's context. On Bhakti, everybody is possible. You can connect anyone, and from wherever he is, he can be lifted by Shravanam Kirtanam. But he's speaking especially in terms of Ashtanga Yoga over here. Effects of modes of passion and ignorance are manifested by too much hankering after wealth and women. तो हालांकि although Ashtanga Yoga and Jnana Yoga demand a great qualification in terms of they should have done Nishkam Karma Yoga and they should have become purified actually from all these desires, isn't it? That is only when you accept Jnana Yoga and Ashtanga Yoga. It is not that anybody can go. But the point is, many times the efficacy of these processes may have such candidates who are not like that. So for such people who lack that perfect Atma Jnana, pure freedom from fruits of action, this is what is recommended, that they do Virat Rup meditation that way. So those who are too much after wealth and women can rectify their leanings only by constant remembrance of Vishnu in his material potency, his impersonal feature. What is this? Vishnu in his material potency? This is Virat Rup. You understand? Like that. So for them, this is being suggested, not for the qualified yogi. Shuddha Chitta Yogi जो है उसके लिए नहीं है, अशुद्ध चित्त योगी वाले उसके लिए Virat Rup meditation is told. So Prabhupada, last para, pantheism in its higher status does not permit the student to form an impersonal conception of absolute truth, but it extends the conception of absolute truth in the field of so-called material energy. Pantheism. You understand what is pantheism? What is pantheism? Yeah? No, that is polytheism. I'm saying pantheism. Okay, everything is God is pantheism. Okay, pan means everything, all, and theism means theos. So pantheism means everything is God. So basically God seen in impersonal light. This whole universe is God, like that. So that pantheism is actually impersonal, but Prabhupada is saying pantheism in its higher status. So this is devotional pantheism. Virat Rup meditation is not only pantheism, it is devotional pantheism. Because that pantheism will just think that whole universe is God. But here, when you see Virat Rupa, it is a person, isn't it? That Virat Rupa, he is Hiranyagarbha. Lord manifests that form in the beginning of creation. It's not that Virat Rupa is completely imagination. Here, the yogi may imagine him, but Virat Rupa is manifested in the beginning of creation by the Lord. So it's a temporary form, but it is not completely imaginary form that way. So that is why we will see this. I will explain this later when we will explain Samashti Virat, Vyashti Virat, Hiranyagarbha, all those concepts. So point is what? Pantheism in its higher status, there is general pantheism and there is pantheism in higher status. So what is that higher status wala pantheism? That is Virat Rup meditation. So pantheism, devotional pantheism, later Prabhupada would say. Why? Because this pantheism will bring one to the personal conception. Uska kuch impersonal conception hai bhi. So wo slowly it goes away and he becomes, comes to the personal conception that this all belongs to the Lord. This all belongs to Lord, the one who is the master of universe. Like that he thinks, and he's a personality. So after perfecting Virat Rup meditation, he is able to accept God as person, and then he is given the Paramatma as Dharnashray. That is the point. Okay. So this way. Take Hare Krishna. So if any of you have anything to ask, you may stay, or okay, we will stop here today. I also have another English. Just in case you have any questions, so please note them. I will take it in the beginning tomorrow. Okay. We will stop now. It is already 4:07. Granthra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Online duties can be there for some time. Just as